Sir, can you hear me? Sir? Open your eyes. Stay with me, sir.
Rain. Midnight. An empty platform in Chicago. A young black woman is on her knees, pressing into the chest of an old white man in an expensive coat.
Somebody help, please! Anybody!
Miss, let me go. I'm not worth your train.
You don't get to decide that, sir. Not tonight.
The last train pulls away behind her. Her ride home. Her only ride home. $9 in her account. A sick mother waiting up. 4 hours of walking through the worst streets in the city. He has more money than she'll see in 10 lifetimes.
Stay with me.
And he is dying in her hands. What she doesn't know yet is that the stranger she saved is the reason her whole family is about to change forever. But before we get to that night, you need to know who she was. To understand why what Tiana Anderson did that night was almost impossible, you have to understand what she was running home to. 4:55 in the morning. The alarm on her phone vibrates against the wooden floor next to her mattress. She doesn't have a nightstand. She doesn't have time for one. She reaches for the light switch, then stops herself. The kitchen bulb has been out for 6 days. She's saving the new one for when her mother needs to take her pills at night. So Tiana brushes her teeth in the dark, by feel, the way she's done it for almost a month now. In the living room, her mother is asleep at the kitchen table. 65 years old. Head resting on a stack of medical bills, one hand still gripping a pen. Yvonne Anderson has been a hospital janitor for 31 years, and her back is finally giving up on her. Chronic pain, the kind that lives behind your eyes and never lets you rest. Tiana drapes a blanket over her mother's shoulders. She doesn't wake her. "Mama," she whispers, "just 5 more minutes. I got you." In the small bedroom, her 13-year-old brother Elijah is hunched over a borrowed library laptop. He's been awake since 4. He's doing algebra problems for fun. He's that kind of kid. He's also the kind of kid who got accepted into one of the best magnet schools in Chicago last spring, and who can't go because the family can't afford the $35 a month for the bus pass to get there. He hides a piece of toast in his pocket when he sees her in the doorway. Tiana pretends she didn't notice. "You hungry, baby?" "Nah, I ate." "Elijah." "I ate, T. Promise." She kisses the top of his head. She doesn't push it. Some pride you let a 13-year-old keep. On the way out, she stops at the front door. There's an eviction notice taped to it. Pink paper. The kind that means business. Past due. $1,348. Final notice. Vacate premises by November 15th. She peels it off the door before her mother can see it. She folds it in half, then in half again, and slides it into the cookbook her grandmother used to use, the one Yvonne never opens anymore. That's the 4th final notice this year. 6 in the morning, Northwestern Memorial Hospital. Tiana ties her hair up and clips on her name tag. T. Anderson, CNA. She checks vitals on Mr. Holloway in 4B, who calls her Sunshine every morning, even though he can barely remember her name by lunch. She helps Mrs. Petroff out of bed without waking the IV line. She wipes down a man who lost a leg yesterday and won't make eye contact with anyone. She does all of this with a smile that doesn't waver. Her best friend, Keisha Brown, finds her in the break room at noon. "Girl, you working a double again?" "Triple." "Tiana." "Don't Tiana me, rents do." "Baby, you can't pour from an empty cup. You hear me? Your cup is on fire." Tiana laughs. She pulls out a pill organizer and takes 2 multivitamins. She can't afford the real medication her doctor recommended last spring. The multivitamins are her compromise with herself. "I'm fine, sis, I promise." She isn't fine, but saying it out loud might make it real. 3 o'clock. Lunch break. She FaceTimes Elijah from a folding chair in the supply closet because the break room is too loud. "You eat?" "Yeah." "Show me." He sighs. He holds up half a sandwich. The other half is in the fridge for Yvonne. "You're a good kid, you know that?" "I know." "You'll be home before bedtime, right?" She lies. "Yeah, I'll be home." 6 p.m. Shift 2. She mops marble floors in a downtown high-rise. Polishes brass elevator doors so clean she can see her own face in them. She catches her reflection between the third and fourth floors and pauses, not out of vanity, just checking she still looks like a person. Some days, that's the hardest part of being poor. Not the money, the slow forgetting that you exist. In the back of her notebook, hidden under her mattress at home, there's a half-completed application to Rush University College of Nursing. The application fee is $85. She has $52 saved in an envelope labeled, "Do Not Touch, Tiana." Yvonne adds $1 to it every time she finds one in an old coat pocket. She thinks Tiana doesn't notice. Tiana notices. Her mother used to tell her something when Tiana was little, back when Yvonne still had the strength to brush her daughter's hair at night. "Baby, the world is going to try real hard to make you small. Don't you help it. When you see somebody fall, don't look away. That's the one thing your mama wants you to remember. There was one time I looked away. I never stopped paying for it." Tiana never asked her what she meant. She figured one day her mother would tell her. She didn't know that day was already coming. Fast. 11:32 p.m. She sprints out of the high-rise into the rain, heading for Union Station. One train. That's all she has to catch. One train, and she gets to be home with her people for 6 hours before she has to do it all again. This is what she was running for. Not glamour, not safety. Just one more night where everyone she loved was under the same roof. She had no idea the universe was about to ask her to give that up. For a stranger. What Tiana didn't know, what she couldn't have known, was that earlier that same morning, on the other side of Chicago, a 73-year-old man had received a phone call he'd been waiting on for half a century. Walter Bennett was sitting in the library of his estate in Lake Forest when the call came in. Henry Walsh, his driver of 30 years, was the only other person in the room. The phone rang. Walter answered. He listened for 45 seconds without saying a word. Then he set the phone down on the desk, very carefully, the way a man sets down something he's afraid to drop. "Henry," he said. "Sir, after all this time, she's in Chicago. She never left." That was all Walter said. Henry didn't ask who she was. In 30 years, he had never asked, and Walter had never told him. Some things between men don't need names. Walter spent the rest of the morning doing things he hadn't done in 20 years. He drove himself, for one. He stopped at a florist on Michigan Avenue and bought a bouquet of white lilies. He went to a stationery store and bought a single sheet of cream-colored paper, then sat in his car for 40 minutes trying to write something on it before finally just folding it into quarters and slipping it into his coat pocket, along with an address he'd written down that morning. He drove south. By 6 p.m., he was in the old neighborhood, South Side, the streets he'd grown up on before his father moved the family away in the summer of 1972. He drove past the house slowly. There were lights on, a woman's silhouette behind a curtain. He drove around the block, then around again, then again. He never rang the bell. By 11 o'clock, he was sitting on a bench at Union Station, the lilies on his lap, the folded paper in his pocket, his heart doing something inside his chest that didn't feel right. He hadn't eaten all day. He hadn't taken his medication. He had spent 52 years building up the courage to come back here, and now that he was here, he couldn't make himself stand up. He didn't see the young woman in scrubs running past him toward the last train. Tiana didn't see him either. She was watching the train doors. 38 seconds. She could make it. She could make it. She heard the thud behind her like a body hitting wet concrete, because that's exactly what it was. She froze. She turned around. 50 feet behind her, the old man in the black coat was face down on the platform. The flowers had scattered. Nobody else was moving. A teenager with earbuds glanced over and kept walking. A man in a suit lifted his phone, then thought better of it and hurried for the train. 2 transit workers at the far end of the platform hadn't seen. Tiana didn't think. She didn't calculate. She didn't ask what it would cost her. She dropped her bag and ran the other way. Behind her, the train doors hissed shut. She heard them lock. She didn't look back. She hit her knees beside him, 2 fingers to his neck. Faint pulse, irregular. His skin was gray. His left hand was clenched against his chest, not his shoulder, which she knew meant cardiac event. She rolled him onto his back, tilted his head, opened his collar. "Sir, can you hear me? Sir, I'm a nursing aide. My name is Tiana. You stay with me." His eyes fluttered. He looked at her. He tried to say something. It came out as a wet sound. "Sir, save your breath. I got you." She dialed 911 with one hand, her other hand checking his airway. "Adult male, mid-70s, suspected MI, Union Station Metro Platform 2. He's breathing, but it's bad. Send everyone." A piece of paper had slid out of his coat pocket and was getting soaked next to her knee. Instinctively, she grabbed it and shoved it into her hoodie so it wouldn't blow away. She didn't look at it. She didn't have time. Walter's eyes fluttered closed. His pulse skipped. Skipped again. Stopped. "No, no, no, no. Sir, you stay with me." She started compressions. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. She screamed for help. "Somebody! Somebody, please!" Her voice broke against the empty platform. Rain ran down her face into her mouth, her arms burned by the 20th compression. She thought about her mother in the kitchen, alone. She thought about Elijah waking up to an empty apartment. She thought about the 4-hour walk through Englewood. She thought about the $9 in her account. She did not stop. This was the moment Tiana Anderson stopped being a girl rushing home and became the only thing standing between Walter Bennett and the rest of his life. The life he had spent 52 years trying to find his way back to. She thought she was saving a stranger. She had no idea she was carrying the man her mother had been waiting on her whole adult life through a rainstorm. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. "Come on, sir. Come on." Tiana's arms were on fire by the 30th compression. She'd done CPR on training dummies 100 times. She'd never done it on a real human being. Dummies don't have gray skin. Dummies don't have wedding ring tan lines on hands that have forgotten how to grip. Dummies don't have a heartbeat you can feel slipping away under your palms. "Sir, stay with me. Sir, you stay with me right now, you hear me?" She was talking to him like she talked to her mother on the bad nights. Soft. Steady. Like the only thing in the world that mattered was the next breath. Footsteps. Heavy ones. A janitor came running from the ticket booth carrying the AED from the wall mount. Older black man, late 60s, name tag reading Ray. "I got the pads, sis. You keep going." "Thank you. Thank you, sir." Ray ripped open Walter's shirt. Tiana kept counting. The pads went on. The AED started talking in that calm robot voice that nobody ever wants to hear in real life. Analyzing rhythm. Stand clear. Tiana sat back on her heels. Her hands were shaking now, not from cold, from everything. Shock advised. Stand clear. Walter's body jolted. Tiana checked the pulse. "Faint. I got faint." "Keep going, baby. Keep going." She went back to compressions. Sirens, somewhere in the distance, getting closer. "Sir, hold on. You hold on. Somebody is coming for you." His eyes fluttered open for half a second. He looked at her. Really looked at her. Like he was trying to remember something. His lips moved. A name came out, barely a breath. Yvonne. Tiana didn't catch it. The rain was too loud. She thought he was just trying to breathe. "That's right, sir. Breathe. Just breathe." The paramedics arrived 2 minutes later. Red and blue light painted the wet concrete. 2 men in Navy uniforms took over. Tiana stepped back, soaking wet, hands still shaking. "Ma'am, are you family?" "No, sir. I just saw him fall." "You did CPR?" "I'm a CNA at Northwestern. I think so. I think I did it right." "You did it right. He's still got a pulse because of you. You riding with us?" She looked at the empty platform. The train was gone. Her bag was a wet lump 20 feet away. She had no money for a ride share. She had no way home. She looked at the old man on the gurney. "Yeah, I'll ride with him. Somebody should know his name when he wakes up." Ray, the janitor, picked up her bag and handed it to her as she climbed into the ambulance. He squeezed her shoulder. "You're a good one, sis. Don't let nobody tell you different." She didn't have time to answer. The doors closed. Inside the ambulance, the paramedic worked. Tiana sat by Walter's head and held his hand. She didn't know why. He was unconscious. He couldn't feel it. But her mother used to say, nobody should ever be alone when they're scared, even if they don't know they're scared, so she held his hand. The paper she'd grabbed from the platform was still in her hoodie pocket. She had forgotten it was there. "How old is he?" she asked. "License says 73. He looks tired. They all look tired by the time we get to them, man." Northwestern Memorial, 12:52 a.m. The trauma bay swung open and they wheeled Walter through double doors. Tiana stood there in her soaked scrubs, suddenly aware that she didn't belong here, not in this part of the hospital, not at this hour, not without a badge that said she was on shift. A security guard started moving toward her. Dr. Sarah Wilson, the attending, intercepted him. "She's with the patient. She's the reason he has a pulse. Get her a towel and a chair." Tiana sat down in the family waiting room. Somebody handed her a coffee in a paper cup. She held it with both hands because her hands wouldn't stop shaking. She called home. "Mama? Baby? Baby, where are you? It's almost 1 a.m. "Mama, I'm okay. I'm at the hospital. Not for me. Somebody fell at the train station and I had to stay." "You missed the last train?" "Yeah, Mama." There was a long pause. Tiana could hear her mother breathing. "Are you safe, baby?" "I'm safe." "Did you help him?" "I'm trying to." "Good. That's my girl. You stay until he's okay, you hear me? You don't leave that hospital until he's okay." Tiana closed her eyes. Her mother didn't ask how she was going to get home. Her mother didn't ask about the missed train, or the missed shift, or the rent. Her mother only asked one thing. "Did you help him?" "I love you, Mama. I love you back. Now go sit with that man." She hung up before her voice could break. 2 hours later, Dr. Wilson came out. "Miss Anderson? He's stable. Massive cardiac event. Whoever did compressions on him did everything right. 2 more minutes and we wouldn't be having this conversation. You saved his life." "Is he going to wake up?" "Yes, he's going to wake up." Tiana exhaled for what felt like the first time since 11:48 p.m. "Can I see him? Just for a second, just to know he's okay." Dr. Wilson nodded. Tiana stood at the doorway of the ICU room. Walter was on a ventilator, tubes in his arms, monitors beeping steady. His face looked smaller now, the way old men's faces do under hospital light. She didn't go in. She just looked at him for a long minute. "You hang in there, sir," she whispered. "Somebody out there is going to want you to come home. They always do." She didn't know how right she was. She didn't wait for him to wake up. She didn't want to be there when he opened his eyes. She didn't want him to think she was waiting around for thanks or a reward or anything else. She had done what her mother taught her. That was enough. She rode the night bus home, with $5 left in her wallet. She got off 6 blocks from her apartment and walked the rest of the way through the rain. She let herself in at 4:11 a.m. Her mother was asleep on the couch, waiting for her. She covered Yvonne with the blanket, kissed her forehead, and went to bed in her wet scrubs because she was too tired to change. She didn't know it yet, but she had just spent the most important night of her life. She thought the hard part was over. The hard part hadn't even started yet. All right, hold up. This girl just gave up everything. Her last train, her last dollar, her one night of sleep, for a stranger. I'm not gonna lie, y'all. I don't know if I would have done that. Keep this energy. What happens next hits different. When Walter Bennett opened his eyes the next morning, the first word out of his mouth wasn't his lawyer's name. It wasn't his doctor's name. It was a question. Where is she? Henry Walsh was sitting in the corner of the ICU room. He'd been there since 2 a.m, the moment the hospital called. Where is who, sir? The girl. The one who saved me. I saw her face. Henry, please, find her. Sir, you need to rest. You had a major cardiac event last night. Henry. Henry knew that voice. He had known that voice for 30 years. He stood up and went to find Dr. Wilson. What Henry came back with an hour later was this: A black female CNA named Tiana Anderson, 26 years old, on staff at Northwestern, missed her last train home to perform CPR on a stranger, stayed at the hospital until 2 a.m. to make sure he was stable, and then left without giving her phone number or asking for anything. Walter listened to this with his eyes closed. When Henry finished, Walter said only one thing. Anderson. Yes, sir. That's her last name. Anderson. Yes, sir. Is that significant? Walter didn't answer. He was thinking. Anderson was a common name. Half the South Side was Anderson's. He couldn't let himself hope yet. Henry, find out where she lives. Just the neighborhood. I don't need the address. I just need to know where. Henry nodded and stepped out. While Walter waited, he tried to remember what had happened on the platform. He remembered the rain. He remembered falling. He remembered a young woman's voice saying, "Stay with me." And he remembered, just before he lost consciousness, looking up at her face and seeing something he had not seen in 52 years. Not the face exactly. Something in the face. A particular way the eyes set. A particular kind of stillness around the mouth. He told himself he was hallucinating. People hallucinate during cardiac events. That's what he told himself. Henry came back with one sentence. South Side, Englewood border. That's all I could find. Walter closed his eyes. He didn't tell Henry. He couldn't tell Henry yet. But the address folded in his coat pocket from the night before, the address he had carried into that train station, was in the same neighborhood. He breathed in. He breathed out. He told himself, coincidence. He told himself, don't be a fool, Walter. You are 73 years old. You have wanted this so badly for so long that you are seeing patterns that aren't there. But he was a careful man, a patient man. 52 years of careful, of patient. Henry, I want to go see her. Not bring her here, go to her. The hospital, on her shift. Tomorrow if I can stand. The day after if I can't. Sir, you just had a heart attack. Henry, I'm not asking. Henry nodded. He had stopped arguing with Walter about important things a long time ago. Meanwhile, 6 miles south, Tiana was sleeping. She had 4 hours before her morning shift. She didn't know a man in an ICU room was already arranging the second most important conversation of her life. She didn't know that the paper she'd shoved into her hoodie pocket the night before was sitting in her laundry basket, slowly drying, waiting to be discovered. She didn't know any of it. What she knew, when she finally woke up at 9, was this. She had missed 3 texts from Keisha. Her mother had made her coffee, and Elijah had left her a sticky note on the bathroom mirror that said, "You got home. I love you." She put the sticky note in her pocket and went to work. She thought yesterday was over. It wasn't. It was barely starting. Tiana didn't think about the old man on the platform for 2 whole days. Not because she didn't care, because that's what poor people do. You hold someone's hand through the worst night of their life, and then you go back to work, because rent is still due on the 15th. What she didn't know was that the world had already started moving toward her. Tuesday morning, 3 different supervisors at Northwestern stopped her in the hallway and shook her hand. Strangely formal. She thought it was about a patient she'd helped on her ward. It wasn't only about that. By noon, Keisha pulled her aside in the break room with a folded newspaper. "Girl, you need to see this." Chicago Tribune, business section, page 4. Small headline. Healthcare philanthropist hospitalized after late-night incident. Stable condition. There was a photo. A clean-cut older man in a suit at some charity gala. The caption read, Walter J. Bennett, Chairman, Bennett Healthcare Group and Bennett Family Foundation. Tiana's stomach dropped about 2 inches. She hadn't gotten a good look at his face in the rain. But the build was right. The age was right. "Sis," Keisha whispered. "Sis, is this the man?" "I don't know. Maybe." Tiana. Bennett. As in the Bennett. That night, walking back to the locker room after shift, Tiana stopped at the donor wall by the main entrance. She had walked past it every single day for 2 years and never read it. Tonight, for the first time, she actually looked. At the very top, etched in bronze, the biggest name on the wall, the Bennett Family Foundation. She stood there for a long time. When she got home, she emptied her laundry basket to start a wash. At the bottom was the hoodie from Friday night, still slightly damp. She reached into the pocket and pulled out the folded piece of cream-colored paper she had grabbed off the platform. She had forgotten it was there. She unfolded it. She read it. She read it again. She sat down on the edge of her bed, very slowly, because her legs had stopped working right. It was an address, written in shaky handwriting, the handwriting of an old man. It was her address. She held the paper in her lap and stared at it. A stranger had been carrying her home address into a train station at midnight. A stranger she had never met before in her life. A stranger who, according to the Chicago Tribune, was one of the wealthiest men in Illinois. She didn't tell her mother, not yet. She put the paper in her bedside drawer. The next morning, somebody knocked on the door. The knock at the door wasn't Walter. It was a hospital courier with a sealed envelope addressed to Tiana Anderson, CNA. Inside was a single handwritten line. Miss Anderson, if you have a moment this Thursday, I would very much like to thank you in person. Cafeteria at Northwestern, 2 p.m. I will come to you. W. Bennett. That was it. No phone number, no demands, no black town car at the curb. Just an old man asking politely for 10 minutes of her time at her workplace. She read it twice. She folded it. She put it in her pocket next to the address. Thursday, 2 p.m., Northwestern Cafeteria. Walter was already at a corner table when Tiana walked in. He stood up when he saw her, slow and careful, one hand on the table for balance. He was thinner than the photo in the Tribune, hospital pale, but his eyes were steady. He gestured to the chair across from him. Miss Anderson, thank you for coming. Sir, you shouldn't be on your feet. Probably not. Sit, please. She sat. He sat. Henry Walsh was 3 tables away, reading a newspaper, pretending not to listen. Miss Anderson, I owe you my life. I'm not going to insult you by pretending I can repay that. I just wanted to look you in the eye and say thank you, properly. Sir, you don't owe me anything. I'm just glad you're okay. I'd like to do something for you, not as payment, as a man who would like to be able to sleep at night. He slid a plain envelope across the table. This is $500. It's for the train ticket you missed, the shift you walked out of, the taxi I'm sure you couldn't afford. A man owes a debt to a person, not a charity to a stranger. Will you let me settle the debt? Tiana looked at the envelope. She looked at him. She thought about the eviction notice in her grandmother's cookbook. Okay, she said softly. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Miss Anderson. He started to stand. She stopped him. Mr. Bennett, before you go, there's something I need to give back to you. She reached into her pocket and pulled out the folded cream-colored paper. She set it on the table between them. She slid it toward him. This fell out of your coat the night you collapsed. I picked it up so it wouldn't blow away. I forgot it was in my hoodie until 2 nights ago. Walter looked down at the paper. His face went still in a way that wasn't peaceful. Sir, Tiana said. Her voice was careful now. That's my address on there. My home address. Why was a stranger carrying my home address into a train station at midnight? Walter sat back down, very slowly. He didn't speak for a long time. Henry, 3 tables away, lowered his newspaper. Miss Anderson, Walter finally said, I'm going to tell you the truth. Then I'm going to leave, and I'll never bother your family again unless you invite me back. Will you hear me out? She nodded. She didn't trust her voice. I wasn't at that station by accident. I went to the South Side that night to find someone, a woman. I've been looking for her for 52 years. I hired a private investigator decades ago. He called me on Monday morning. He told me he'd finally found her. He gave me an address. He looked at the paper between them. That address. Tiana's hands were flat on the table. She wasn't breathing. Sir, who? Who at my house were you looking for? Walter's eyes filled. I think it might be your mother, Miss Anderson. I think her name is Yvonne. Before she was married, her maiden name was Carter. Tiana didn't move. Carter was her mother's maiden name. Mr. Bennett, she said, my mother has never said your name. Not once in 26 years. I know. And she had every right not to. He didn't reach across the table. He didn't try to take her hand. He just kept his hands folded in his lap and spoke very quietly, the way you speak to something you're afraid of scaring away. We grew up next door to each other, South Side, in the 60s. I loved her from the time I was 14 years old. When I was 19, my father moved my family out of Chicago. He didn't approve. I tried to write to her. He stopped the letters. I didn't find that out until I was older. By the time I came back, she was gone. New last name, no forwarding. I've been trying to find her ever since. He swallowed. I'm not here to ask for anything. I'm not here to disrupt your family. I'm here because you asked me a question, and you deserve the truth. That's all. He stood up, slowly. Tell your mother, if you want to, that an old man named Walter Bennett came looking for her. If she doesn't want to see me, I understand. 52 years is a long time. She has every right to say no. This is my number. He set a plain business card on the table next to the address. Thank you, Miss Anderson, for my life, and for asking the question. He walked out of the cafeteria slowly, leaning on Henry's arm. Tiana sat at that table for 20 minutes without moving. She didn't cry. She didn't pick up her phone. She just sat there, looking at the business card, and at the address, and at the empty chair across from her. Then she got up. She told Keisha she was going home sick. She walked out of the hospital. She didn't take the bus. She walked. The whole way. She had to figure out how to ask her mother a question that was about to break something open that her mother had been carrying alone for 52 years. Tiana got home at 4:30 in the afternoon. Her mother was at the kitchen counter, rolling out dough for cornbread. The radio was on low. Yvonne hummed along, the way she had been humming along to that same gospel station for 30 years. Tiana sat down at the kitchen table. She put the business card and the folded address on the wood between them. She didn't say anything. Yvonne looked over. She saw the card. She read the name on it. The rolling pin stopped. She set it down very carefully, like it was made of glass. She turned off the radio. She walked over and sat down across from her daughter. Tiana, she said softly, where did you get this? Mama, the man I saved on the train platform last week. The one I told you about. His name is Walter Bennett. He came to see me today at the hospital. He told me he was at that station because he was looking for someone. He said her name was Yvonne. He said her maiden name was Carter. Yvonne closed her eyes. She didn't cry. She didn't speak. She just breathed. In and out. The way she breathed when her back was hurting too bad to talk through. Then she stood up, walked to her bedroom, and came back carrying a small wooden box that Tiana had seen exactly once, when she was 10 years old. Yvonne set the box on the table. She opened it. Inside were letters, a lot of them, yellowed, some still sealed, a thin silver ring, and a photograph, black and white, of two teenagers laughing in front of a candy store somewhere in 1971. A black girl in a flowered dress, a white boy in a denim jacket, their shoulders touching like nothing else in the world existed. That's me, Yvonne said quietly. That's Walter. Tiana looked at her mother's face. Yvonne wasn't looking at the photograph, she was looking at her daughter. Mama, why didn't you ever tell me? Yvonne reached across the table and took Tiana's hand. Because I loved your father, baby. Real, all the way love. I didn't want him to spend his whole marriage living next to a ghost. So I made a choice. Your father knew about Walter. I told him before we got married. He told me, Yvonne, I don't need you to forget anybody. I just need you to be here. And I was. I was here every single day. Tiana's eyes were wet. I'm not asking you to forget Daddy. I know, baby, and I won't. A long silence. "Mama, do you want to see him?" Yvonne looked down at the photograph. For a long moment, she didn't answer. "I need a night," she finally said. "Give me a night. I'll tell you in the morning." That night, Yvonne did not sleep. She sat at the kitchen table until almost 3 a.m., reading old letters she had never let herself read in 52 years. The next morning, over coffee, she said one sentence: "I owe him an answer. Even if the answer is no, I owe him the answer in person." Tiana called the number on the card. Walter picked up on the second ring. They arranged to meet at a small coffee shop on 63rd Street. Yvonne went alone. Tiana stayed home with Elijah and waited. That conversation was nobody's but theirs. Yvonne came home 4 hours later. Her eyes were red, but her shoulders were straight. "He's coming Saturday," she said, "to meet you and your brother. After that, the three of us will decide what happens next, together, as a family." Saturday at 3 o'clock, Walter knocked on the front door. He was wearing a clean gray suit. He carried a single bouquet of white lilies. Elijah opened the door. Walter shook his hand like he was meeting the man of the house. "Mr. Elijah, I'm Walter. Your mother told me you like Carl Sagan." Elijah's eyes lit up. "Yes, sir. Me too. Cosmos was the first book I ever stayed up all night to read." They sat in the living room. Tiana brought sweet tea. Walter saw the framed photograph of Mr. Anderson on the wall. He stood up, walked over to it, and nodded at it. Once, respectful, like a man tipping his hat to another man at a graveside. Yvonne saw him do it. Her eyes filled. Then Walter sat back down and spoke plainly. "Yvonne, Tiana, Elijah, I'm not here to fix anything. I can't fix 52 years. I'm not here to be anybody's hero. Tiana saved my life. I owe a debt. So here is what I would like to offer. Not as charity, as a debt being paid by a man who finally has the chance to pay one." He laid it out simply. Full tuition, housing, and stipend for Tiana at Rush University College of Nursing, through her master's if she wanted it. Comprehensive specialty care for Yvonne's back, including surgery if her doctors recommended it. A real retirement, the kind she had earned 31 years over. Full enrollment for Elijah at the magnet school he'd been accepted to, plus transportation, plus a college trust released to him at 18 on the condition he attend a 4-year university. The eviction notice paid off. The apartment lease bought out through the end of the year, with no obligation to stay. He saved the last one for Yvonne. "And one more thing. I would like to fund a program at the Bennett Foundation in your name, for caregivers and hospital workers on the South Side, the women who've been holding this neighborhood together for decades. You would design it, not me. You. Because you know what they need. I don't." Yvonne looked down at the table. "Walter." "Yes, Yvonne?" "Give us a week. We'll talk about it as a family. Then we'll come to you with our answer. And our terms." Walter nodded. "Yes, ma'am. I'll wait." He had waited 52 years. One more week would not kill him. A week later, the Anderson family sat across from Walter at his foundation office and said yes, with conditions. Tiana asked for 3 of them, and Walter agreed to all 3 before she finished saying them. First, she wanted to keep working part-time during nursing school. "I don't want to graduate and not know what tired feels like." Walter nodded. Second, the caregiver program would not be named after her family. It would be named after the women it served. Walter nodded. Third, Walter would not be her father. "I had one. He was a good one. But you can be Walter, a person in the house. That's enough." Walter swallowed hard and said yes to that one too. What followed was not a fairy tale. It was a season. And like all real seasons, it had bad days inside the good ones. Tiana started at Rush in the spring. Her first anatomy exam came back with a C-. She sat in her car in the parking lot for 20 minutes and cried. Then she called her mother. Yvonne, on the other end of the line, said only one thing. "Baby, a C is not a failure. A C is you learning. Get up, go back in." Tiana wiped her face. She went back in. She got an A on the next one. Elijah started at the magnet school. 2 months in, somebody in the cafeteria said loud enough for him to hear, "That's the kid on the charity scholarship, right?" He didn't tell anyone. He just stopped talking about school at dinner. Tiana noticed. She sat down next to him on his bed one night. "I know, baby. I know what that feels like. I'm not going to fix it. I'm just going to sit here." She sat there until he fell asleep. The next morning, he went back to school. He didn't quit. Kids like Elijah don't quit. Yvonne could not sleep in the new house. It was too quiet, too big. 3 nights in a row, she got up at 3 in the morning and sat on the living room floor, the way she used to sit on the floor of the old apartment when her back was bad. Walter, who had been sleeping in the guest room that week, came out one night and saw her there. He didn't say anything. He just sat down on the floor next to her. They sat there together until the sun came up. They didn't speak once. It was the most honest thing either of them had done in 52 years. The Yvonne Anderson Caregiver Program launched in the fall. Yvonne herself sat in a community room at a Southside church with 8 Black and Latina women in their 50s and 60s, a notebook open in her lap, and asked them one question. What do you all actually need? Not what we think you need, what you need. One woman said, "We need time, not money. 1 afternoon a week where somebody else watches the babies, so I can sit down." Yvonne wrote it down. The whole program got built around that one sentence. 20 women in the first cohort, stipends, health insurance, and, most importantly, respite care, afternoons off, paid for, no questions asked. The first recipient was a woman named Cheryl Williams. At the launch event, she stood at the microphone and said, "Nobody has ever said my name out loud in a room like this before." Half the room was crying. Walter was one of them. So was Yvonne. Northwestern Memorial mounted a small bronze plaque on their lobby wall. Citizen First Responder, Tiana Anderson, October. Her photo went up first. Union Station added a plaque on Platform 2. The Bennett Foundation funded AEDs at 12 more Chicago train stations and called the initiative the Anderson Project, over Yvonne's mild protests. Walter, on his own, with Yvonne's permission, set up a separate small scholarship for Southside students pursuing engineering and physics. He named it after Yvonne's late husband, the Anderson Memorial STEM Fund. The first time Elijah saw the brass plate with his father's name on it, he didn't say anything for a long time. Then he hugged Walter, just once, quietly. Some days, Yvonne and Walter sat on the porch swing of the new house and didn't speak at all. Once, on a vacation to the Atlantic, Yvonne saw the ocean for the first time in her life. Walter stayed 20 feet behind her, on the sand, so she could have the moment alone. After a while, she turned around and said, "Walter, get in the water with me." He got in. They held hands under the water. They didn't kiss. They didn't need to. 1 year later, October, 11:48 at night, Platform 2 of Union Station. Tiana Anderson walks down the platform in clean RN scrubs. Not a CNA name tag anymore. The badge clipped to her pocket reads T. Anderson, RN, Rush University Medical Center. She had passed her boards 2 weeks earlier. Her mother had cried. Elijah had baked her a cake that came out flat. They had eaten it anyway. She passes the small bronze plaque on the platform wall. She stops, the way she always stops, and touches her fingertips to the metal. She doesn't read the words. She doesn't need to. She just touches it. A small ritual. A way of saying thank you to a version of herself that didn't know what was coming. She walks toward the last train. Then she hears it. Behind her. The sound of a body sitting down too hard on a wet bench. She turns. An older black woman, maybe 70, is gripping the edge of the bench with both hands. 2 heavy grocery bags at her feet. Her shoulders are heaving the way shoulders heave when a body is trying very hard to keep breathing. Tiana does not think. She does not calculate. She does not ask what it will cost her. She drops her bag and runs. Ma'am, look at me. Are you having chest pain?" "Baby, I think I just need to sit a minute. My name is Tiana. I'm a nurse. Let me help you, okay?" "Okay, baby, okay." The last train pulls into the station behind them. Tiana doesn't look at it. She has her hand on the woman's wrist, counting pulse, calm as still water. "You're gonna be okay, ma'am. I got you. I got you." Behind them, on the same platform, an unnoticed teenage girl is sitting on a bench with her phone in her lap. She has been watching the whole thing. She doesn't film it. She doesn't post it. She just watches, quietly. The way a person watches something she might need to remember. The train doors open. The train doors close. Tiana lets it go. She has done this before. 2 miles south, the lights are on in a small house on a quiet street. Yvonne Anderson is sitting on the front porch swing, a blanket over her lap. Walter Bennett is sitting next to her, holding her hand. Inside the house, Elijah is at the kitchen table, working through a problem set with his head bent low. The framed photograph of Mr. Anderson sits on the mantel where it has always sat. Walter, every time he walks past it, still nods. Later that night, Tiana climbs the porch steps. She sits down on the swing on the other side of her mother. Yvonne takes her hand without looking up. "Mama," Tiana says softly, "do you ever think about that train I missed?" Yvonne keeps her eyes on the porch light. Her hand tightens around Walter's. "Every day, baby. Every single day." I told this story because we've stopped telling enough of them. A black woman gave up the only thing she had to save a stranger in the rain. That's what quiet kindness does. The camera pulls in slowly on a framed black and white photograph hanging in Tiana's house. 2 teenagers laughing in front of a candy store, 1971. Next to it, Yvonne's wedding photo with Mr. Anderson. Next to that, Tiana's nursing school graduation portrait. 3 frames, 1 family. Fade to black. Somewhere out there tonight, there is a person in your life who carried you through a hard season without ever asking for credit. There is also somebody who is still waiting on a knock at their door. Don't make them wait 52 years. If this story moved you, share it. Tag the person it made you think of. Hit subscribe so we can keep telling stories like this one. And in the comments, tell us, who is the person in your life who showed you what kindness really looks like? We read every single one. Good night.